Thank you for that, Ms. Rissy, and to the entire team. And Jenna, Capri, and Daniel, thank you for challenging us. I would just say, you referenced the Shamrock Run. I know what happens at the end of the Shamrock Run, so that's wellness for me. We have a couple of board lights. Mrs. Schauheim.
Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. I had the joy of participating in one of the Wellness Council meetings at Annapolis High, and it was fabulous. And I love everything about what you're doing. I just have a couple questions about the report card and the statistics. And so help me understand about there was a 65% on physical activity environment and 61 on nutrition guidelines. Do we know what things we can work even harder on to improve specifically?
Sure, I think I can answer that for you. Again, for the record, Jody Rissy, Supervisor of Food and Nutrition Services. The scorecard, the two pillars that are primarily looked at are the nutrition guidelines and the physical activity. In the physical activity, we weighed those before and after school and how they were community enriched. That's something that we're looking at, of having more families engage in a larger amount of elementary schools. And then for the nutrition education, the biggest thing that popped out when we did the scorecard is how do we embed the nutrition staff, so our servers, our managers, our cashiers in the kitchens, with the teachers in the classroom. So they're there for a very limited time, and that was something that we scored low on. But when we looked at it, we thought we really don't have our staff there all day. They're only there for 3.5 hours or 4 hours. So that was something that we were definitely looking at on the nutrition side, along with when we sample new items, when we're looking at new menu items, we often ask our students. They're the ones who, they're having we're keeping them fueled for learning. One of the questions was, do you ask family and students about your menu? And we don't do as much with the family, so that's the other area we're going to be working on.
Wonderful. And so just to be clear, so every school doesn't withhold for physical activity for punishment, and every elementary school does at least 20 minutes and those sorts of things. We were really high on those. What brought us down was the family engagement piece.
Correct.
Okay. Is there any school that doesn't prioritize the recess, that if it's applicable, or has any sort of policy on the books that withholds it as a punishment that we know about?
They do not, but the question is, was it before lunch? So we think with the with the scorecard, and we've talked to MSDE about it as well as University of Maryland, we're going to do it a second year to really get that baseline data and see where it moves. But the question specifically says, is it held before lunch?
Oh.
So again, the questions were pretty specific, so we answered them exactly how the toolkit in the scorecard is labeled. So we believe we have so much more to do with the scorecard. We'll do it again, and then I'm sure in our true AACPS fashion, it'll probably be morphed into more of a collective CDC approach.
Wonderful.
We, Anne Arundel and Dorchester were the only two school systems that fully implemented it during this 18-19 school year. So we are learning some of what's worked and not worked. While we had LEAs review the assessment, we never did a lot of testing ahead of time with the tool, so we are learning sort of some of the kinks of what we may need to clarify a little bit more in terms of the dialogue.
Perfect. Is there a reasoning about the pre-lunch versus post-lunch with the physical activity? Is one better than the other in the eyes of MSD? Or?
There are some nationally, there's some things that have come out about some of the best practices, having physical activity before lunch. But it's, again, there's a lot of factors to take into consideration with scheduling.
Absolutely.
And all of that, so we recognize that at the state level.
Perfect. Thank you all again so much. It was a wonderful presentation, and I'm really proud of what we do as a school system.
Thank you.
Ms. Antwine.
Well, what has been demonstrated is how effective wellness is. It makes the day brighter, right? No matter how gloomy or bringing the wellness and the focus has helped tremendously. And thank you for this awesome presentation. Before I go into my questions, I wanted to commend you, Jody. All the way to Philadelphia, we were at our NSBA conferences. And while they were talking about food and nutrition, and vendors were talking about how they can make things better, we as Anne Arundel County were setting the stage. When they mentioned we could do this, we do that, oh, we already do that. And that is commendable, so thank you for that. I want to also say in District 1, I had the opportunity to see wellness at work from the teachers to the students with our Triple E programs and otherwise the community circles. I saw them in action, and it made all the difference, and it's throughout the day, which is awesome as well. I love the video, by the way. But what I really appreciated about the wellness, which is so important to any wellness, is the self-pacing, the self-motivating, the self-decisions to get better within and outside of themselves, and the opportunities all of the schools have allowed. My question is the 65% with mandates for things like PE and at the high school level, the sports that come involved, are those numbers considered when they're doing these assessments, or these programs outside of those types of programs?
So I think I can answer that. Physical activity in general, I think, is what they're looking at on this report card. They do address physical education because that is a state mandate. They ask about before and after school activities. I think when we talk about before and after school at the elementary level, it's more what is the school offering. When we get to middle school, it's about what the school is offering, whether it be girls on the run, boys on the run, hero boys. And then at the high school, I think we look at it on a sports lens. It doesn't call out athletics in the scorecard. That might be something that we could address with MSD as they move forward. But I think it's all encompassing of all of the types of physical activity we offer our students.
Oh, thank you. And I was glad you clarified what brought the number down was the family involvement. But I have to say that we even announced today with Educator of the Month how the family involvement piece is very strong in our county, in our school system. So perhaps they're not assessing all of what we're doing, or I'm trying to understand how they can give us a score of 65 with an excellent program.
I think the score is not representative of really what we do. So what we learned, and I know having Megan with us when we did so, 2 folks from the Wellness Council go out to each school. So we all interpret it a little bit differently, right? So I think moving forward, we're gonna have more scripted questions. Like if they ask us questions about nutrition, and I'll just talk about nutrition, we do a tasting of the rainbow all the time. So obviously they have it. They're not even thinking to tell us that. So I mean, as the first time doing it, we learned so much. We would go back to the Wellness Council meetings and everybody would be abuzz of what they learned and how we all looked at it with a different lens because we are representing all the different areas. So social and emotional looked at it maybe different than nutrition and physical education. So we're really proud of the 65%, and when you look at how many have it fully in place, it's a great number, and it's really a great baseline for us to grow those areas. And I'm gonna look at that nutrition piece with family for me. I never ask the parents. But after this whole process, I'm like, I'm gonna ask the parents, but I still need to make sure that the students are really the ones with the voice, because they're the ones that are having the lunch.
Great. There are no further board questions, so above all, let me just say thank you for this presentation. This has been a great presentation. I know there was an amazing amount of work that went into this, but then certainly it's the work that's done on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis that led us here, so thank you for that.
Yeah, and thanks to our students. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy days to spend some time with us, to our principals and staff for making this a priority. The partnership with both the University of Maryland, Baltimore, and MSDE, so thank you for that. Jody and Christiana, you guys are wonderful, and leadership from Mrs. Jackson is just incomparable. So thank you for your continued work.
Thank you.
Thank you.